Assistant County Prosecutor Kevin Filiatro, and Mr. Patrick White is here representing the state. On August 27th, a jury returned a verdict in this matter against you, Mr. Beasley, on count 1, which was aggravated murder with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification. They found you guilty of count 3, conspiracy to commit murder, a felony of the first degree with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification. Count 5, murder with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification. Count 6, murder with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification. Found you guilty of count 7, felonious assault, a felony of the second degree with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification. Count 8, they found you guilty of felonious assault, a felony of the second degree with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification. They found you guilty of count 9, felonious assault, again with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification. We found you guilty of count 10, felonious assault, again with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification. They found you guilty of count 11, felonious assault, again with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification. Count 12, involuntary manslaughter, a felony of the first degree with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification. And count 13, having weapon while under disability, a felony of the third degree. Mr. Skanes, you were tried to the bench, and this court found you guilty of count 1, aggravated murder with a 3 and 6-year firearm specification. Count 4, conspiracy to commit murder with a 3 and 6-year firearm specification. Count 6, murder with a 3 and 6-year firearm specification. Count 7, felonious assault with a 3 and 6-year firearm specification. Count 8, felonious assault with a 3 and 6-year firearm specification. Counts 9, felonious assault with a 3 and 6-year firearm specification. Count 10, felonious assault with a 3 and 6-year firearm specification. And count 11, felonious assault with a 3 and 6-year firearm specification. After the jury had rendered their verdict and I had reached my verdict, we received and request a pre-sentence investigation report. I received a report on you, Mr. Beasley, dated October 22nd. I'm sorry, it was, I believe, dated October 2nd, from Investigator Vivian Eskridge. I shared that with Mr. Richardson. Mr. Skanes, I received a pre-sentence investigation from you on October 1st from Investigator Manuel Salvador, and I shared that with Mr. Dubiak, and also the state of Ohio. I had the chance to review both of these reviews. Finally, the last thing this court had a chance to review, I received yesterday from Andre Martin a victim impact statement, which I reviewed, and I shared that again with all counsel. So that's everything the court has reviewed prior to today. Mr. Filiatro, Mr. Richardson, Mr. Dubiak, is there anything else this court needs to review before we proceed to sentencing?
Not review on paper, but we do need to have a discussion on the record about merger and things like that, which I can do when the court needs.
Okay, sure. Mr. Richardson, Mr. Dubiak.
No additional information, Your Honor, and we will join in the discussion about merger.
Very good.
I have nothing, Your Honor.
All right, very good. All right, Mr. Beasley, Mr. Skanes, are you ready to proceed to sentencing today? Mr. Beasley? Mr. Skanes? All right, very good. All right, so here's how I'm going to proceed. I'm going to hear from the state of Ohio first, Mr. Filiatro. Anyone who wishes to speak on behalf of the state, any victims. After I hear from you and the victims, and anyone who wishes to speak on behalf of the state, I'll then turn to you, Mr. Richardson, on behalf of Mr. Beasley, and anyone who wishes to speak on Mr. Beasley's behalf. Mr. Dubiak, I'll hear from you regarding Mr. Skanes, and anyone who wishes to speak on Mr. Skanes. And Mr. Beasley, I'll hear from you. Mr. Skanes, I'll hear from you. All right? So this is how we'll proceed. Mr. Filiatro, are you ready to proceed to set?
Yes, Judge, we are waiting on the deceased victim's mother. She is on her way, but I think we can.
Okay.
So, Your Honor, let's begin with discussing merger. And so we have several counts, Judge, where the alleged victim of this homicide is Allison Applin France. That's count 1, aggravated murder. Counts 3 and 4 are conspiracy for count 3, conspiracy with regard to Mr. Beasley. Count 4 is conspiracy with regard to Mr. Skanes. Count 5, murder. Count 6, murder. Count 7, felonious assault. Count 8, felonious assault. And count 12, involuntary manslaughter. All of those counts are with regard to the homicide of Allison Applin France. The state concedes that they should all merge, and the state elects to proceed to sentencing on count 1, aggravated murder. Additionally, we have firearm specifications attached to each of those counts. It's the state's opinion that both defendants must be sentenced on count 1 to the 3-year firearm specification and the 6-year firearm specification prior to and consecutive to any sentence they receive on count 1, aggravated murder. Now we go to count 9, which is felonious assault, Jane Doe 1. This count does not merge with any other counts, and the state is seeking a sentence on this count as well as a sentence on the 3-year firearm specification. Under State versus Bowler, this court must give 2 sentences on 2 of the 3-year firearm specifications, but in its discretion can give more if it so chooses. So we would respectfully request that the 3-year firearm specification on count 9 be given with regard to both of these defendants. What that means is that both of these defendants will have to serve at least 12 years in firearm specifications prior to and consecutive with any sentence they receive on the underlying counts. Count 10, likewise, does not merge. That's with regard to Jane Doe 2. The court does not, under the law, have to give a 3-year firearm specification for this count. The state is aware that all of these counts also have 6-year firearm specifications attached to them. I believe that only one of those specifications will be in order in this case, and we've elected for that to be on count 1.
Let me ask defense, do you agree with that?
We agree, Your Honor, with the imposition of a single 6-year firearm specification for the switch.
Okay.
And that it is limited in its application to a single 6-year sentence. But we also agree with the state's analysis so far with respect to merger.
Got it, thank you. Mr. Dubiak?
I don't have any reason to complain at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Your Honor, likewise, count 11 is felonious assault for John Doe. That count also does not merge with any other counts. And again, with this one, the court could give the 3-year firearm specification. It is not required under the law. Finally, count 13, it applies to only Mr. Beasley. That's a weapon under disability count. That will not merge with any other counts either. So the state is seeking a sentence 9, 10, 11, and for Mr. Beasley, count 13. That's what we have to say about merger, Judge.
And that same would apply to Mr. Skanes in
Yes.
regard to merger. All right, very
Yeah.
good, all right.
Correct, all
Right.
of that discussion applies to Mr. Skeens, although he does not have his own weapon or disability.
Very good. All right. All right. So, I guess that's State versus Bowler, State versus Lewis in this court, 8th District opinion that just came out. And I guess there's no objection to that either. It's the law of the land from the Supreme Court as to the firearm specifications. Correct, Mr. Richardson?
We're gonna preserve an objection for appeal, Your Honor, but we
Understood.
certainly understand the state of Ohio's explanation and this court's ruling, but for the purpose of appeal, we'd like to.
All right, very good. All right. So, Mr. Dubek, same argument?
Checks it, the same as the co-defendant's counsel.
Got it, all right. So then, Mr. Filiaccio, would you like to proceed then on sentencing?
Yes, Judge, thank you. Your Honor, with me today, and with me throughout this case has been Allison Appling Francis' mother. I don't know if she's here. She is entering the building.
That's fine. We'll
So,
allow her to speak whenever she shows up.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But I would like to bring up one of Allison's very good friends who has also been with me throughout this case. If I could have her, where would you like her to stand?
Just stand right in front of the podium, or the table. No podium. Hi, how are you? Hi,
So-
we have a court reporter here, so I'm gonna ask you to say your name and spell your first and last name for the court reporter, and speak slow and clear so she can
Okay.
get record everything. Go ahead.
Kenesha Ballard, and it's KENNESHABALLARD.
All right. Ms. Ballard, what would you like to say?
So I wanted to, can I face them?
Sure.
Okay. So, everyone, I met Allison, we were 12 years old. We did a lot of things we probably shouldn't have did, right? But we also did a lot of great things, like go to church and pray. We tackled life together. I don't know you, she didn't know you guys. She loved people, especially bums. She did, she loved crackheads and bums. She loved everybody, but especially you two types. So I just want to say, may God have mercy on your soul for taking someone away from me and her daughters. You guys did something so heinous, so disgusting in front of her kids. You smirked at me, you're smirking now, and you guys have kids. I just pray that God have mercy on your soul, and whoever called you to do this, I pray He have mercy on you too as well. That's all I wanted to say. Allison was a great, beautiful woman. I can't see anybody doing anything to harm her. So, unfortunately, I watched her give birth. I watched her grow. We grew together, and I couldn't ever imagine that at 29 years old, when we were just at Memorial and Brush High School, planning our 30s and 40s, that she wouldn't even see it. I couldn't even imagine. And to be taken out by somebody that she didn't even know, stalked, and just outright disgusted. It took, I don't know how many of you guys. She was a very powerful person. And understand, you guys will live with that for the rest of your life. Your kids' kids will live with that for the rest of your life. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Judge, I'll have a few comments on behalf of the state prior to Allison's mother coming in. This case is truly heinous. What happened to Allison Appling France? Judge, you sat through this trial as both the trier of law and the trier of fact. So you have a unique perspective here.
You know, I'm sorry, if you're in the courtroom, you're in the courtroom. Please remain decorum here, and deputies, if they ask you to leave, please leave. Thank you.
So, I first want to acknowledge the work of the Cleveland Police Department on this case. What the police did, and you see several members of the homicide unit here in this courtroom, each and every one of them, that entire unit, should be commended for their work on this case. And because it wasn't just, oh, okay, we've got a woman who's been killed, let's talk to witnesses, let's see what happened. Because in this case, the witnesses were her own kids who saw this all happen right in front of them. And the driver as well. But if you just stopped with what they had to say, you would only be getting on the surface of this case. And this case goes far deeper than just what happened to her on January 10th of this year. And we know that from, and we are able to talk about that in this courtroom because of the work of the Cleveland Police Department. What they did in getting all of the video evidence in this case, in getting these cell phone extractions, and getting the DNA, getting the video, seeing that the killer in this case touched a very small but unique spot on that vehicle, getting a swab of that and finding that that indeed was Mr. Beasley. One of many pieces of evidence that proved he is the killer in this case. Was commendable work, and I want to acknowledge that here in this courtroom, because the state of Ohio was able to put forth a bevy of evidence for this jury, for them to be able to know what happened. And now I can talk about it. Here, what happened here wasn't just January 10th. Mr. Beasley had a job in this case, given to him by Clarence Bennett and somebody else. And we know that from those text messages, and we know this from this video evidence. Clarence Bennett and Alantez Beasley went and tried to kill her on January 5th, and they didn't get the job done. And we know that from text messages and from video showing they drove all the way over to the place, over to the west side, and then turned around and went home. And then 2 days later, Clarence Bennett says, my dude wants to know why this hasn't happened yet. And then on the 10th, Mr. Beasley has the resolve to get the job done. And he and his partner, Mr. Skanes, sat in that car for hours, longer than a typical workday, waiting, watching. You saw these videos, Judge. The jury saw these videos. We know what they did. They stalked her all day long. And I say they because it was both of them. And I don't know how Mr. Skanes could sit there in that car for 8+ hours and never ask Alantez Beasley, what are we doing here? It's infuriating. It's horrible because they saw Allison get into that van with her kids. And then they followed it, and Clarence Bennett followed it, and they watched, and they waited, and then Alantez Beasley pounced, taking her by surprise with a gun that fired 17 rounds in less than a second. And then, in just cold fashion, leaving that parking lot, they drove right around them. I know you remember this, Judge. The minivan with 3 frantic people inside, and Allison, who's probably dead by the time they get to the end of the driveway. And Alontes Beasley in his black truck drives just right around them and goes about his business. Because that's what it was for him and for Mr. Staines that day. It was business. It was business. So today must be business. Someone who does this should receive a sentence not with numbers, but with words. The sentence should be life without parole in this case. Because the stalking of Allison, the will to get this done, this is not just prior calculation and design. This is whatever's higher than that. And she had no idea. She's just unloading groceries. And think about that ride. I want to speak now about the felonious assault counts for the children. They were not hit with bullets. But their pain is no different. Because, and I know you remember this, Judge, that 911 call that was made by the driver. And he is driving, and we had video of that too. The minivan having to drive all the way from West 104 to Metro Hospital. And he's on the phone, and he has to pass that to Allison's 10-year-old. And think about that for a moment. This 10-year-old is witnessing her mother bleeding to death in front of her 8-year-old sister freaking out next to her, and also telling the operator where they are. That 10-year-old grew up pretty damn fast that day, and is probably never, ever, ever going to forget it. These two should be sentenced for that. Because that pain wasn't caused by bullets entering their bodies, but it is no different. It is no different. Just have a moment.
Sure.
I want to read you the letter that was written on behalf of the family here, Judge. To the Honorable Judge Brendan Sheehan, we would like to thank you for your professionalism and dedication to uphold justice. The fact that the jurors, the bailiffs, myself, and others, including yourself, have witnessed the excruciating truth of the acts of the premeditated and brutal murder of my daughter, Allison Appling France, a beloved mother, friend, Sonny and Sophie, whom are left to view the world with the murder of their mother, which they witnessed, and is at the core of that view now. The group of men who served as Allison Appling France's street judge and jury, ordering and undertaking the death, assassination, and termination of her life, in the presence of her 2 minor children, and the driver must now undertake their sentencing due to this unlawful, ungodly, evil, sick plan that they relentlessly executed. The time of incarceration for these men who have all displayed what they can add to the world, and the worldview of these 2 minor children should be, we ask respectfully, the maximum time for each count. And they have earned it when executing Allison Appling France. The men responsible have displayed what their role in society is by their criminal backgrounds of violence and numerous acts of disobeying and disrespecting the law. Even having us witness the arrogant dismissal of all the facts presented in court as they look aimlessly past all of the evidence which they created to the possibility of being found not guilty, so they can return to society to add to their criminal backgrounds of murder, acts of violence, and unlawful acts. The contribution of these men is putting all citizens at risk, These men are dangerous and evil men who seek crime for employment, murder for employment, and their street military needs to be weakened by the incarceration of these men for the maximum punishment allowed. Your Honor, Sonny and Sophie are terrified with horror of what these men did to their precious mom, who did not have a chance to be human on God's accord. Because of their unlawful and ungodly acts, the girls are left with what can destroy lives. The acts of crime they experienced is severe, and their sentences should mirror that. Severe punishment is what we ask for. Sincerely, the Appling family. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Kevin. And Kevin, if Miss Martin is the author of that, if she's here or she wishes to, comes in, she's on the way, I heard?
She's 5 minutes, she had to drop the girl.
All right.
Yeah,
All
sorry,
right,
her
so-
life changed. She's 5 minutes away
I'll
though.
let you know, Judge.
All right,
Thank you.
very good. Anyone else on behalf of the state?
No, Judge.
All right. Can I see the council at sidebar real quick? Yeah, you know, ladies and gentlemen, and the fact that I now know that Ms. Martin is in the building and gonna be walking up, I'm just gonna take a 5-minute recess to allow her to be present, and if she wishes to address the court, and then to hear anything in defense side, okay? So we're gonna just, for the record, take a 5-minute recess, okay? Thanks.
Yeah, she's here. Thank you.
Leo, when this is over, Patty and I need to talk to your judge for about 5 minutes. Not about this case, okay?
Fertilizer company called. No, I think freaking fertilizer company called. No, it's all done. Yeah. First time. Please rise.
All right, you may be seated. Okay, we're back on the record on case 692-857, State of Ohio versus Alontes Beasley and Jamar Skanes. Mr. Filiatro, we gave a recess to see if Ms. Martin is here and wishing or willing to speak or wants to speak to this court.
Yes.
Hi, Ms. Martin, how are you?
Good morning.
We have a court reporter here who's recording everything that is said, so I'm going to ask you to speak loud and clear and slow so she can record everything for the record. For the record, could you please say and spell your first and last name?
Aisha Appling, Ayesha, last name Appling.
Thank you, Ms. Appling. What would you like to say?
I would like to thank you, Your Honor, for, again, your professionalism, as I stated in a letter, and your dedication to justice. I am in a maze of grief. I'm in a situation I've never thought possible. It's a nightmare. What my daughter experienced is sick. A lot of egos were at play on this young, beautiful girl, 29 years old. No chance to be human, no chance to be a mom, to see her daughters graduate, to see her daughters go to homecoming, okay? To be a daughter to be a brother, a sister to her brother. I'm pretty sure the mistake, whatever it was made by a man before with these men involved. And I doubt very seriously it was handled like that. That was a female, beautiful female, pizzazz, creativity. Her mind was sharp. I hate that she met such monsters who sent more monsters after her. I asked you, Your Honor, to, as you did, look at all the facts. Each step of stalking, harassing, mocking, joking around the life of Allison Nicole Appling France. I asked Your Honor that you keep people safe by handing down sentencing that would disallow for the longest amount of time for these aggressive, brutal, heartless, evil, weak men. Keep them from us, please, from society. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Appling. I appreciate you coming. Thank you. Ms. Appling, if I could ask, how are the two children doing? What, are you having custody of them now?
I have custody of the two beautiful, precious girls who are being strong, attending counseling, trying to cleave to family members that get that mothering love from. They're doing good because of God. And I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Judge.
Does that conclude the state's presentation?
It does.
All right, I'm going to turn now to first Mr. Richardson on behalf of Mr. Beasley.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please, the court. Despite the circumstances before which I stand today, Your Honor, every single person in this courtroom certainly is in front of the bar, consummate professionals, behind the bar, a family that's been destroyed by the death of a loved one, behind me, families that realize that life as they know it and their relationship with Mr. Beasley and Mr. Skanes will be forever changed. I did, on a personal note, extend my condolences to the Appling France family, Your Honor. Doing what I do for a living, frequently being the second least popular person in a room. It's not always easy, but I would never want any sympathy whatsoever because I love what I do. I love defending our Constitution. I love the adversarial process that I engage in with Mr. Filiatra regularly. And most of all, I have a client, each one of whom I develop some regard for, Your Honor. And I care about Mr. Beasley. I've done my very best to defend him in your courtroom. The jury spoke, and certainly, I think across the table, the jury's verdict is respected. As it would relate to the sentence you impose, Your Honor, Mr. Beasley's 35 years old. Any sentence that might be crafted out of the litany of convicted charges will likely constitute the remainder of his life. He understands, and I've counseled him about the process that is in front of him. Again, no one probably is terribly interested at the moment, but I've advised him of his appellate rights, Your Honor. that his Fifth Amendment rights attach and continue through his appeal of right. And I've advised him not to make any statement today. I know that may appear callous or insensitive or uncaring, but my profession must come first. So again, I extend my condolences to the family. Mr. Beasley has 6 children. Not a terribly significant prior criminal history. So I would ask the court to find some measure of justice in imposing its sentence. And we thank the court for its attention.
Thank you. Mr. Richards, I respect your comments, and I appreciate them. I do have a duty to ask Mr. Beasley. You have a right to allocute. You have a right to make a statement. Mr. Beasley, do you choose to make a statement at this time? You choose not to make a statement. All right. Mr. Filiak, or Mr. Dubiak.
Your Honor, this is has been a difficult time, and I can say to court that after doing this since 1970, which is, I think, 54 years, I really do not know how to explain everything here. And I think the only thing I can say to this court is that, you know, my client, all he did was sit in an automobile for several hours. He never aided and abetted. He was never involved. Witnesses have testified that there was no overt acts by him. And I would say, but I can say to the court that the court always likes to hear prior to sentencing apologies. And I would say for Mr. Skanes that you know, he apologizes for someone else purposely causing the death of someone. He apologizes for someone using prior calculation and design. He apologized that someone else possessed the weapon. He never possessed it. He never touched it. He never handled it. He never fired it. Apologizes for this weapon being a automatic weapon under the statute. He apologizes, but states that he never purposely caused anyone's death. He apologizes and says, I never caused physical harm to anyone. I never discharged the firearm. I never banished it. And I never handled the firearm. Based on this, these are his apologies to the court. Thank you.
Mr. Skanes, do you wish to say anything? You want to stand up and please speak loud and clear?
I'm Jamar Skanes, J-A-M-A-R, S-K-A-N-E-S. I just want to let you know I'm sorry for anything that happened there. I can't even read this. I'm just sorry. I didn't do anything wrong to be here. I'm not raised like this. I'm not. I had no idea all this was going on. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it bothers me that I am accused of taking a woman's life that something, I don't know the woman, so I don't know the kids, I have no, but I'm deep in my heart, I feel like garbage, because that's not how my mom has raised me. So, this is not me at all, man. For y'all to sit here and say things about me, you don't know me. I am terrified of what's about to happen because I am not a killer. You know, all you want, but I'm trying to tell you one thing for certain, the truth, the truth. I am deadly wrong. Seriously. Apologize to you guys. From the bottom of my heart. Because one thing is that I'm not a killer. I'm not. I got kids myself. I got girls. I would never let anyone do this to my kids. Or my grandkids, or anyone that's involved in my family. So I would never let someone do that to yours. So please take that into consideration. Because I am a father. I'm 50 years old. I don't have time for this. I was on my way to work. It ended up at somebody else's job, not mine. So I do have my own company too. So it's not like I'm out here a bum. I make money. So one thing for certain, Your Honor, and one thing I will say one more time to the court and to the family. I'm sorry.
Well, Mr. Skanes, since you're talking about how you had no knowledge of what was going on, the video shows that you were there.
At the gas station.
No, you were there the whole time.
Yeah.
Both of you were in the car, in the truck,
Yeah.
waiting for the victim to come home. So how can you say you had no knowledge of what was going on?
No knowledge of what's going on. I'm in the car sick, Your Honor.
I'm sorry?
I was up for 4 days, working.
So
that time I-
why were you there then? What was your, did you ask, you obviously can speak and you're obviously
Yeah.
intelligent. Why were you there?
Because I was on my way to work. He was taking me to work.
He was
So I
taking
had
you to
to-
work. What time do you work at?
I work my own company. I work all the time for a different company and at evening for my own self. So I pay to rehab houses. That's what I do.
You pay for the gas to go in the car
I didn't
too?
pay for the gas. He paid for the gas.
All right,
Ask him.
all right.
Ask him. Please, Your Honor. I didn't pay for anything. I was going to get paid, not pay.
So, let me ask you, why were you there then?
He was taking me to work, Your Honor.
You know, if I was going to work, I wouldn't be in a car all day sitting there waiting to go to work. You sat in a car from 9 in the morning to 8 p.m. You were not concerned about getting to work?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Filiatro, anything on behalf of the state? Final.
No, Judge, thank you.
All right. Mr. Beasley, Mr. Skanes, you want to stand up? Gentlemen, this jury of our community on August 27th found each of you guilty, found you, Mr. Beasley, guilty of aggravated murder, conspiracy to commit murder, felonious assaults on the victim, the 2 daughters, and the driver, the Uber driver, all with gun specifications. And we talked about the merger of those offenses. And before I proceed with the sentencing, I always like to start with what is the purpose and principles of sentencing. And that is, the purpose and principles of sentence is that I must comply with Revised Code 2929.11a. And that is to punish the offender, protect the public from future crimes by you and others, using the minimum sanctions that this court determines that accomplishes the purpose without imposing an unnecessary burden on state or local government resources. I always have to consider the need for incapacitation, deterrence, rehabilitation, and restitution. The sentence I impose should be commensurate with and not demeaning to the seriousness of your conduct, its impact on the victims, and consistent with sentences for similar crimes by similar offenders. I'm not sentencing you, gentlemen, based on your race, your ethnicity, your gender, or your religion. Do you understand that, Mr. Beasley?
Yes.
Do you understand that, Mr. Skanes?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Gentlemen, these crimes, these are horrible crimes in and of themselves. And the details of the crimes that you committed are even worse. We seen a week-long trial of both of you stalking Allison Appling France for days, hunting her. And thank goodness for the great work of the Cleveland Police Department and their homicide unit, because they showed us this hunting. Their crime strategy unit, the videos, the cameras in this community showed both of you out there hunting, stalking this victim. And what's sad is on January 5th, you tried, it didn't get done. The messages and the text messages and the evidence that came into this trial showed that you were hired to kill this lady. This community and this jury and this court watched the actions that both of you took on January 10th as Miss Allison Appling France and her 2 children went shopping at Target. And when they returned home, watching as you, Mr. Beasley, got out of that van and you, Mr. Skanes, sitting in that truck as you brutally executed her in front of her children. It was cold, it was calculated murder, completely devoid of any humanity. Even now, neither of you have shown one bit of remorse to anyone here. You were given a chance to participate in a pre-sentence investigation to help explain how you both, having been raised in good neighborhood with good schools and good families, became so dead inside that you could gun down a young mother in front of her small children for some money. Think about it. You sold your lives for that bit of money you got to kill a young mother. You value your own lives as little as you valued Miss Appling France's life. True justice in this case is beyond the reach of this court. But this court values lives, especially the lives of little children you terrorized and scarred when they had to witness their own mother getting gunned down inches away from them. These little girls cannot live in fear that someday you're free in this world. So based on that, based on the evidence this court has heard, Mr. Beasley, for the record, the state has merged counts 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 12 with count 1. And count 1 is aggravated murder. The potential sentence I'm looking at, your potential sentence is life with the possibility of parole after 20, 25, 30, or life without parole. As for the gun specifications, I'm going to sentence you 3 years on the first firearm specification and 6 years on the firearm specification. So that's 9 years on that firearm specification to a sentence of life without parole. As for count number 9, felonious assault, I'm going to sentence you to 8 years. And that is a Reagan-Tokes sentence because it's an indefinite prison sentence with a prison term of 4 years. That's half the prison term for the max of 12 years. For the total state of prison term on that count, 11 to 15 years, and there's a 3-year gun specification that's a count on that count. So that would be a total prison sentence on that count for 11 to 15 years. As for count number 10, the felonious assault, I'm going to also sentence you to 8 years with a 4 years, half the prison term, indefinite prison term of 4 years. So that is a total term of 12 years on count number 10. Count number 11, I'm going to sentence you again to 8 years with a 4-year indefinite prison term of half of that prison term for a maximum of 12 years. Again, that total time for that would be 8 to 12 years on that count. On count number 13, having weapon while under disability, that's a felony of the 3rd degree. I'm going to sentence you to 36 months, and I'm going to run that concurrent to count 1. Count number 9, 10, and 11 will be served consecutive to the aggravated murder, which is, again, life without parole after, well, it's 9 years with parole eligibility with life without parole. I think I said that correctly. Mr. Filiatro, is that accurate?
It is, Judge, with regard to count 1, and then there will be one other 3-year firearm specification, I believe, on count 9.
Count number 9, correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Richardson, I have to ask, does Mr. Beasley have the money or means at this time to hire a lawyer or have a lawyer for appeal on this case?
No, he does not, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Beasley, do you have the money to hire anyone in regards to help you on this appeal? All right. The court will appoint the public defender to represent you on this matter, and this matter will be, a transcript will be ordered at state's expense. I'll give you credit for any time served on this matter, and wish you luck in your future. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks. All right. You can take him out. Mr. Skanes, in regard to your case, I have to make a statement here that you're just as guilty as the shooter. You were in that car. You're the guy, the bank driver, the guy who's sitting in the car as the guy goes into the bank and robs the bank. You're just as guilty as the guy who was robbing the bank. You were complicit in this murder, and this court found you guilty of those offenses. I found that you acted in concurrence with Mr. Beasley, and the fact that you stood here and tried to act like you had no idea what was going on is disgusting to this court, because you knew, you were there. It was clear as day what was going on in that van. And thank God for video cameras, because the video cameras of the trucking company showed you sitting in that van, sitting there with Mr. Beasley, sitting in that gas station talking with Mr. Beasley, pumping gas for that car or that truck. And then after that horrific murder, not saying a word. You're just as guilty as far as this court's concerned. So in that regard, Mr. Skanes, I'm going to impose the same sentence. On count 1, I'm going to sentence you to life without parole with a 3 and a 6-year 9 gun specification. As for count number 9, I'm going to sentence you a sentence of 8 years with an indefinite prison sentence of 4 years, half the prison term, for a maximum sentence of 12. That total prison sentence will be 11 to 15 years. Count 10, felonious assault, I'm going to sentence you to 8 to 12 years. And count 11, I'm going to sentence you again to 8 to 12 years. I'm going to run counts 9, 10, 11 consecutive to count 1. And I'm going to ask Mr. Skanes, do you have the money or means, or Mr. Dubiak, does he have the money or means to hire a lawyer at this time?
As it stands now, the answer is no, Your Honor. However, that could change.
All right. So I'm going to assign a counsel to represent you. Mr. Skanes, do you have the money or means to hire anyone?
No.
All right. I'm going to I'll appoint a lawyer and order the transcript at state's expense. I'm going to ask Mr. Filiatro, Mr. Dubiak, is there anything else that I need to address at this time? I'll give you credit for time served also. All right. Thank you. That adjourns this court hearing.
Thank you.
Here, I'm going to give this to the clerk. I'm going to mark the state's exhibit, the victim impact statement from the Ms. Andre Martin. There you go. Thanks.